the computer. Okay, the videos which are going to be recorded, I think that's what you're asking about, John, the ones I just mentioned with the LifeHQ roadmap. Those will be added to LifeHQ, and you'll be able to download a new version of LifeHQ through the Lemon Squeezy dashboard. Okay, so I had a couple people ask about how do I download this, or I never got the email. So if you didn't get the email, this is the link that you will need. Let me grab this. So what you'll do is you will go to,
I got the email. Thank you.
did you? Okay. But just in case anybody else needs this, that's the link, the app.lemonsqueezy.com/myorders. From there, you can click on LifeHQ, the product, and then when I have a new version, I can upload it there. I am gonna work on some sort of like version control and installers and stuff like that down the road, but not there yet. But that's where you can get everything. And actually, since I released it on Tuesday, I have released a bug update, which you can download there. I think it's version 1.01 and 1.02 is actually getting ready to be uploaded as well. It's just minor stuff. And if you have any questions about what has changed, there is a release notes section inside of LifeHQ, which I will share my screen here, and we'll get into that in a second. All right, let's get rolling. I'm going to share Obsidian. Let's see. Got to share the right one. Okay, this looks like it. All right. And actually, when you first open LifeHQ, this is what it's going to look like. Now, before we get into the onboarding of LifeHQ, I want to address another question that has popped up a couple of times, which is how to actually access LifeHQ, because there are some specific things about Obsidian that I maybe didn't do a great job of explaining on the page where it shows you, here's the file you download, unzip the folder, and then open that inside of Obsidian. So if you go to Manage Vaults, I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me see, kind of change the screen that I'm sharing here. Nope, I can doodle on it. Here we go. Okay, so this is the when you click on the manage vaults, this is the screen that you'll see. You need to open the folder as a vault. Of course, it opens up a new window. Sorry, let me walk through this though, because this is important. Okay, so here's the find. Oops. Well, this will work. What you need to open up is not the actual unzipped folder. So if I were to take this LifeHQ blank folder right here and I double click on this, it'll unzip it. Okay, so here's this folder that it just created. This is not the one that you open. This one contains, whoops, actually that is the one that you would open. But the one that is in that's the blank one, sorry. Let me do the reference one right here. Okay, so LifeHQ actually contains a README file when it's unzipped. And actually that one didn't either. It was, this is the one, I think. There we go. This LifeHQ version 1.01. If you double click on that, you got a README file, and then you've got the LifeHQ vault. If you open up this LifeHQ view 1.01, the file that is missing here is the Obsidian settings file, which explains these are the plugins that it should download. These are the settings that it should have. So if you open up this folder as the vault, you won't get the message that says, do you trust the author of this vault? Click yes, and then it just installs everything for you. You have to actually open up this folder right here, this LifeHQ folder. You'll know you've opened up the right folder when you see all of these files and additional subfolders inside of this. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Then let's go back to LifeHQ. Oops. Okay. So once you open up LifeHQ, the reference vault, that is the one that has all of the instructional material in it. The blank vault is the one that you want to use to set up and tweak the workflows. Okay, when you open up the reference vault, it should take you first to this 00-readme first file. And what this is designed to do is basically walk you through a short onboarding into just how the LifeHQ vault is set up, and then also some of the key concepts. So things like the Creativity Flywheel that we were talking about, the PKM Stack, you can see those are actually the next notes that are down here. I'm actually going to open up a demo vault here, though, just so I don't mess this one up. Give me 1 second. LifeHQ demo. Okay. And this is what the screen should look like when you get the message about, do you want to trust the author and enable the plugins? Okay. So if we click on that, then all of those get added. It takes us here. Here's all of the plugins. You can see they're all added. And then all of the settings are configured for you. Right. So you really don't want to have to install these one by one. I appreciate the offer. Someone had made to do that via email, but it's really a whole bunch of work, and you want to have just all that stuff pre-populate there for you. Okay, so here's the 00 README first file, and this is the LifeHQ visual tour. If you watched the video from the website with the overview of all the different workflows, that's what this video is. So it's 21 minutes and just basically me walking through a lot of the stuff that we're going to go through here today. But it's a sort of condensed version. And then there's an explanation of what is actually in LifeHQ. There is this reference vault, which has everything in it, minus the different Bible study resources, because there's different versions of those. And it also makes your vault a whole lot bigger. I link to those if you want to add those. I'm happy to walk through some of that stuff here today if it's interesting to people. But basically, the reference vault has everything but that. Then there's the blank LifeHQ vault, which has all of the settings and all the plugins, but none of the content. So you can actually bring in your own notes and kind of build from scratch in that vault. And I separated these so you can have kind of a visual of here's what's going on with the reference vault, and then you can actually do it inside of the blank vault. So the blank vault's kind of like a sandbox as you're getting things figured out, tweaking the templates, things like that. And then all of the literature notes, those are actually in the reference vault as well. So the reference vault is the one that you want to start with. I'm not sure if everyone on this call has been able to download the LifeHQ vault yet or not. But this is the one you want to start with, not the blank one. The blank one has all the bones there, but there's none of the explanations, so you won't understand the workflows. In here, though, you can see there is a link to download the blank version. This is the current blank version, and it's a direct download, so you don't have to go to the Lemon Squeezy page to download it. And then there is this onboarding checklist right here. This is a transcluded note, and it's just a couple of things that will walk you through some of the basics and help you get a feel for kind of how I've put together LifeHQ. And this is really what the first couple notes are designed to do, is walk you through this stuff. So what you would do if you downloaded this is you would watch that video up above, and then you would check this box. Okay, and then we're going to finish viewing this note. Then we'll read the next one. Now at the bottom, you see this code here. This is actually because we just enabled the plugins. If I actually reload this, this is going to now become a button. All right, and this actually just takes you to the next note. So we would go there, check those, then click this button to go to the PKM Stack note. Now, this is going to introduce a framework called the PKM Stack. I am happy to go deep into this if people really want to. Maybe this isn't what people are most interested in, though. So I'll do an introductory. You let me know if you want more information with this. But this is a framework that I came up with to address some of the problems that I saw with PKM. Because I first came to PKM, I was a Roam research user, and then I stumbled onto Obsidian, and I opened it up the first time, and I actually immediately closed the app, and I was like, nope, this is too complicated. I'm never using this app again. Fortunately, I gave it another look, and it really did click for me, but it wasn't until I had a very specific use case in mind that I started building out a workflow for my sermon sketch note stuff. So that really got me thinking. I was looking at what people were sharing online, and people were sharing like the big graph views and look at all these connected notes. Isn't this awesome? And I was kind of like, well, it looks cool, but what actual practical value do you get from that? And as I started to think about how I got value out of my PKM system, this is sort of what materialized. Okay, so at the bottom level of this PKM stack is the information. And as Tiago Forte says, information is the fundamental building block of everything you do. The information you consume affects the quantity and the quality of the ideas that you have. Okay, those ideas, then that's what we take action on. And if we just had those three, that's what the bottom three levels of the PKM stack, then we would end up living a default life because we're just reacting to the information that is placed in front of us by the algorithms. So obviously, as someone who developed the whole life theme framework, that wasn't good enough for me. I added the philosophy layer on top, which is basically your vision and your values. And then if you have that, it kind of flips the script. And so now you work from the top down, that vision and those values, that creates alignment with the actions and the projects that you engage with, the ideas that you have, and ultimately even acts as a filter for the information that you consume. Okay. And then reflection. So, like daily journaling and the personal retreat stuff that I do, that is what helps me keep this on the tracks. Okay. So, the philosophy or the vision and the values that guides everything else. But just because we've said it once doesn't mean that it's going to stay there. We have to constantly, regularly take a step back and reflect and see, is this really, are the things that I'm doing really still in alignment with that vision and values? So that's the foundation for LifeHQ, is that model, helping you do more of what matters, not just crank more widgets, not just connect a bunch of notes into a fancy looking graph, but how does this stuff align and how do I actually get practical value out of it? Now, the next step to that is to look at each one of those levels. Sorry, I see somebody had a question here in the chat. I'm pulling this up. Okay, let me get to that in a minute, John. Um, okay, so we've got this PKM stack. We got the philosophy, actions, ideas, and the reflection. What I did is I exploded that and I thought about what are the things that I do related to productivity and creativity that align with those different levels. And this is a PK or an Obsidian Canvas file. This is actually built into LifeHQ. And these are essentially the jobs to be done at each one of these levels. And then I color coded those because I identified the apps that I was hiring to do those jobs. So for actions, I've got work tasks, I've got habits and routines, things like that. Under the ideas level, we've got mind maps, sketch notes, book notes. Okay. And identifying how I'm intending to use each one of these apps in that specific workflow allows me to resist the new shiny and then also allows the information to flow freely between the different levels of the PKM stack, which is really what PKM is all about. It's really about information comes in, and then we're going to decide what are we going to do with this? How does this relate to me? What does this mean to me personally? And then what am I going to do with that? What sort of output is there going to be? All right, so that is essentially the PKM stack, and there is a whole cohort that we do in the community around that. But there is also a PKM deep dive right here, and there's a whole bunch of how-tos that are embedded inside of the LifeHQ Vault. Again, this is just sort of an introduction to the concept. So once we are done with that, we check that box. Then we open up the PKM stack note. I'll show you what this looks like. All right. So again, I've seeded the reference vault with a whole bunch of my personal stuff. So you may decide that yours is going to look a little bit different. Okay. But essentially, we've got these boxes for meetings and appointments, multi-step projects, one-off tasks. And then these are the apps that I'm using for those different spots. And it's just a visualization of what apps I'm using in what places. And again, I find that it's helpful to know what job I'm hiring each app to do here. All right, so that is the PKM stack. So once we're done with that, then we would go to the Creativity Flywheel part. Now, there was a question specifically about...
Mike, sorry to interrupt. We're picking up a lot of background noises from people who are unmuted. I was wondering if you can actually mute everyone.
Sorry. Yes. Let
Okay.
me see. There's got to be a button for that in Zoom, but I'm not sure where it is.
I think it's at the top somewhere. Mute at the top
Um,
on the
I'm
left.
Yeah, I am well, I know where it is for myself, but I don't when I'm screen sharing anyways, I don't see
Or
it.
if we can just ask everyone to mute themselves.
Yeah,
That's
if you
easy.
don't mind everybody, just go
And
ahead
yeah,
and
thank you.
mute for now. That would be great. All right. There's the participants. I'm just going to double check here. And okay, looks like we've got on that page anyways, everybody muted. All right, that looks good. All right. All right, let's go back here now. All right, so the creativity flywheel. And one of the questions that was shared at at the very beginning before we hit record was how do I actually implement this? And there really isn't a prescriptive way to do it, but I will walk through the different steps here, and I can share a little bit about how I do this. But essentially, this right here is the creativity flywheel, and it's important to PKM because I think a lot of the problems that I was having with PKM stemmed from capturing, but never having an output. And I kind of realized like Evernote has this reputation as the Roach Motel. It's easy to get things in, but it's hard to get things out. And I realized that was not very fair. I'm getting a message that my voice is breaking up. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, good. Then it might be a connection issue. Sorry about that. Um, so capture is basically from GTD, David Allen, getting things done, where you need to capture something when it has your attention because it might be important. The problem with GTD is that you capture those things and then there's sort of this automatic assumption that it's something that you're going to do. So then you're just deciding, am I going to do this now or am I going to do this later? And if you keep adding things later, it eventually becomes overwhelming. So my version of capture is capturing what resonates. I really like that word resonate. I grew up playing violin, and the violin is a resonant instrument. So you make sound by drawing a bow across the string, and it causes the instrument to vibrate and make sound. So when I'm capturing things that are causing a reverberation in my soul, is like the way I like to think about it. Things that pique my interest. My antenna are kind of always up for those sorts of things. So I'll capture those things, but I intentionally capture them in a different place. I capture them in drafts. And then about once a week, I'll bring things over from drafts into Obsidian, which is where I'll develop those things. But this is getting into the curate phase because about 90% of the things that I capture, I don't actually bring over. That's intentional. An idea when I have it usually seems amazing, and then when I get some space, get some time, sometimes it loses a lot of the luster. So I cut a lot of things. I'm a little bit ruthless with that actually, because I'm trusting that if something's really important, and I'm constantly chasing the things that I'm curious about, that it will come back. And if it comes back again, then I will weight it a little bit more heavily. But at the curate phase, we're basically acting in the role of a curator, where the things that are not in the museum are almost as important as the things that are. So we're really bringing over the best of the best. And then once they're in there, then we need to cultivate them. That's the third step, which I talk about just giving it the right conditions, kind of like a greenhouse for your ideas. And that's where I think the bidirectional linking can really be helpful. But it's not just bidirectional linking. That's the connect phase. But it's really that the tags and the folders and how do these things tie together? How does this idea that I had fit in with all of the other ideas that I had, sort of along the lines of syntopical reading from Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book, where it's not just the one book that you're reading, you're considering the author's arguments in relation to all the other books that you've read on the topic. Okay. And then how does this connect? So how does this tie together with the other things that I've collected? And then ultimately that adds up to an expression of my own personal opinion on the topic. It's not just restating, this is a piece that I gathered from here, which is My problem with the traditional definition of Zettelkasten, I actually got a chance to talk to Bob Dotto, who wrote an excellent book, A System for Writing, about Zettelkasten when he came on the Focus podcast. And I like that as a resource, but he talks about how there has to be some quality aspect to the writing. It's not just the regurgitation of the facts, which is kind of what Nicholas Lumens is famous for. When we create something, there's an artistic expression, and ultimately the thing that is most important there is what do we think about this? But that output, that's the real important part. So the capture is the input, creating is the output. When we create the output, that usually opens up some open loops in our minds, and now we're primed to capture more things that resonate, that are going to speak to those things. Okay, so that's going a little bit deeper than what is actually in here, but I walk through the basic steps here. The real important thing, if you're going to start spinning your creativity flywheel, is you have to have a process for capturing things. There has to be a filter, I think, so it doesn't all just get piped into Obsidian automatically. You have to have a process where these things can develop, and you can kind of figure out what are we actually working with here. All right, so is it and it's not putting the pressure on every single idea that you have to be, this is amazing and this is something that's going to be an artifact forever. You know, some of the ideas that I capture, I think that there's something there, and there isn't. They just sit in the inbox for a while, and eventually I delete them. That's totally fine. As long as you have that consistent process for capturing things, you always have something else that you can work on. But then there has to be a regular, consistent output. And that can be a blog, that could be a podcast where if you're a verbal processor, it could be video. It could also just be an opinion note, you know, kind of getting back to the idea of the map of content from Nick Milo. I like that concept, but I also don't like to think about it as just like an index with a whole bunch of links. I like to think of it as a mental map of my thinking about a particular topic, kind of tying back to the idea of the great mental models, and the map is not the territory. I'm going to decide what I think about this. So I think I actually have in this note right here, thoughts disentangle themselves through lips and pencil tips, and for me also clicky keyboards. The time that I'm unclear or unsure about what I think about something and that's causing me some stress, that's the time to sit down and just start writing, and I can actually formulate my ideas as I create that output. All right, so that is the creativity flywheel. Now, after that, there is the one last note here in the onboarding, which is the path forward. And there's some important details here. If you are brand new to Obsidian, there's actually a separate branch for this. So anybody here brand new to Obsidian, I would love to see some hands be raised if this is you. If not, you can skip over this part, but this is real important because I don't want to drag you through a whole bunch of stuff that you already know. If you are brand new though, and you just start jumping in to the hub notes, you probably will get a little bit confused. So there is a section in the LifeHQ reference vault called Obsidian 101. And this is the video from my Obsidian 101 course, which walks through some basic principles for Obsidian, all the way from the very first time that you open the app to the basics of the Obsidian interface to all of my recommended editor settings, file and link settings, appearance settings, and sync settings. Okay, so we walk through all of those settings to get it set up the way that you want. Now, LifeHQ is kind of configured that way already. But then the next section here is PKM principles. So we'll talk about how notes work. We'll talk about markdown formatting, which is the plain text formatting that Obsidian is based off of. If you're coming from a word processor like Pages or Microsoft Word, you're not going to see bold, italic, stuff like that. You actually have to use plain text to make your styling. So there's a video on that. Tagging, metadata, properties, and then community plugins. Community plugins are where the magic happens with Obsidian. You can basically extend Obsidian and make it any sort of app that you want, which is really what LifeHQ is. But then there are a whole bunch of core plugins that are baked in. They're not all turned on, but these are all core functionalities that are in Obsidian. We're not going to go through all this stuff today, but everything from the audio recorder to backlinks, bookmarks, Canvas, command palette, daily notes, file explorer, etc. Every single core plugin has its own video. So if you want to know what workspaces are, you can watch this and There's a 1.5-minute video, which will show you what workspaces do. And then a very brief introductory section here on data view, which is basically taking all of the data that's in Obsidian and presenting it in different ways. I've created all those queries and things in LifeHQ for you, but if you're interested in how that actually works, then that's where that is. Okay, so that's Obsidian 101. Now let's go back here to this next step. The other paths that you could take from here are you could just start going through the reference vault and exploring some of the different workflows so you can see these in action. These videos are embedded from YouTube or Vimeo. The first one I tried to embed in the vault itself. It immediately made the vault huge. So this is a online only version at the moment. There is also an Obsidian Publish site. So that URL, let me grab that quick. All right, so this is the Obsidian Publish site, and the password, whoops, spell this right, is PKM 101. So you don't even have to have Obsidian open to access a lot of this stuff. Now, obviously, the data view queries and things like that, those are removed from the Publish site because, yeah, the checklist does not show on the Publish site. Yeah, I think I pulled that out actually from Publish. It's not, Publish is basically everything that I could add from the LifeHQ reference vault without it seeming broken. So all of the data view stuff is removed. I think actually I've done some published stuff with like the books and quotes, but yeah, it's not going to be exactly the same, obviously, because not all of the plugins are going to be accessible there. All right, so from here, brand new Obsidian, you can go through Obsidian 101. If you want to explore the workflows, then you can explore this vault. If you're ready to just jump in and start working with this, you can download the blank version. If you want to transfer a specific workflow from this vault to your existing vault, then there are the how-tos. Okay, so John had asked a question earlier about how do I actually bring this over into my current vault? I don't have a great solution for you yet. I know Christopher is on the call. Maybe he's got something he could chime in here. I know he's been playing around with this, but that's kind of why I developed the how-tos the way that I did so that you can add one workflow at a time. And I walk through all of the settings that I use. This is the plugin that you install, things like that. It's easier, obviously, if you just build on top of the blank vault. You could drag your notes and things in there. But if you already have a vault, you have a whole bunch of workflows that you're already using, you can grab the pieces from the reference vault and you can add those to your current vault, but there isn't just a drag and drop sort of thing for that. Okay. And then there is, yeah, the blank version, and then how you can transfer the individual workflows. Now, there's a whole bunch of workflows in here, and I kind of broke them down into these buckets: journaling, habit tracking, task management, multi-skill planning, life theme, book notes, and Bible study. And each one of these links, these are what I call hub notes. So in the File Explorer here, you can see these are the different hub notes. All right. Also in this last part of the onboarding, there are links to the different dashboards. We'll talk about those. And links to all of the values-based productivity stuff, like my life theme, my core values, my ideal future, my ideal week, and my eulogy. These are all notes, and as I said, I've actually embedded this with my demo stuff. There's instructions on how to update this and figure this out for yourself. Like there's a whole course in here about developing your life theme. So you can actually just change the My Life theme note, and then your life theme gets pulled into the personal retreats and things when you do that. But this is basically the end of the onboarding. So that's the different parts of that. And then I guess the other thing to call out here is that if you ever get stuck, please feel free to email me. This is the email address, support@mikeschmitz.com. Some of you have already taken advantage of this. I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as I can. All right, but now we'll jump into some of these hub notes because these are basically the jumping off points for the different workflows. I am actually going to start in the order that they're posted up here. So let's take a look at journaling first. This is, I probably the thing I use Obsidian for the most. Each one of these has an overview video. So this is an 11-minute video which walks through all of the journaling workflows. So kind of like the 21-minute overview video, but this goes deep into all of the different journaling workflows that are built in here. And then here are all of the how-tos for the different workflows. This actually, whoops, is, if I scroll down here, I believe, yep, this is a data view query. So this is pulling in all of the things that match those different criteria. But when you're just looking at this, these are bullet points, and you can just click on any one of these and jump to those how-tos. Okay, I see the message that screen sharing stopped. I did not stop sharing screen. So Thomas, let me know if it comes back. Maybe it's a connection issue. Okay, looks like it's working for others. So. All right. Zoom has tabs. That's a good point. That's a new thing with Zoom. It messes me up every once in a while. There'll be the grid, and then there'll be the tab for the screen. Okay, cool.
Yeah, the screen sharing is in another tab. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So really this is all kind of based off of, for journaling, off of the daily notes. So some of this is fairly basic. Some of this is all the different things that I've added on top of the daily notes. I won't go through all of the how-tos. I'll probably just show you how these work in action. But I do want to point out how these how-to notes are constructed. Okay, so all of these how-tos, if you look in the tab bar here, we've got a blue background and a magnifying glass icon. And if we go into the journaling and daily notes folder, you'll see the same sort of links. This is actually using a plugin called Supercharged Links. And shout out to beta tester who turned me on to this. But basically what these do is they've got the different tags here. And then this property right here, review unread, this is basically saying that you haven't looked at this yet. Now, at the top of every how-to, there is a workflow summary. This is kind of the bullet points of how you can actually just start using this. Okay. You can just jump in, and these are the things that you got to know how to do. But then I get into the philosophy behind it and make sure these settings are enabled and all that kind of stuff. All right. So there's screenshots that go along with all this if you really want to dive into it. But basically, and then at the bottom, there are also see also links. So these are all the related links so that you can open up the local graph in the lower right-hand corner and you can surf to related notes. Okay, that's actually how I got into using Obsidian for sermon sketch notes, and I can show that if people are interested, but the big graph is not useful to me. This local graph is insanely useful for me. This is where the magic happens. All right, but then when you're done with this, what you can do, this is using another plugin called MetaBind. But when we are in the publish or the reading view, which is the default view in LifeHQ, when you click this button, it will update this property. Oh, maybe I got to force reload. Oops.
Actually, Mike,
Yes.
I found out with Supercharged links, I've been using it for a while, that if you just close the folder and then reopen the folder, it updates the link.
Okay.
The folder where the notes are. Yeah.
Gotcha. So like this. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I may have found a bug with this specific one, but when you click the button, it marks it as read. It updates that property, and then it will turn it green. So you got a visual indication basically of which ones you've reviewed. You don't have to read all 60,000 words that I wrote. If you can, I mean, if you want to, go ahead. It's all there. But really, it's just, okay, yeah, I know how to use daily notes. I know how to use the daily questions, all that kind of stuff. Which actually, like, let's get into now the specifics here of the journaling. So we're on the 7th. Using the calendar plugin here, you can click on any date. And then when you click on the date, it's going to open the template. The templates are all configured in the daily notes settings. They are also all in the templates folder here for you. So this is the one that I'm going to be using. And we change this to source mode. You'll see a whole bunch of crazy stuff in here, like double curly bracket, state colon DDD. Those are variables that are going to get converted when you actually create a new note from this template file. And it's got the data timeline at the top. It's got the verse of the day image, which you can just delete this part right here if you don't want to use that. Memento Mori, this is all based off of your birthday. So this is where you would update the year, month, and day, and then for your birthday. And then I'll show you what that looks like when we create the daily note. The Bible reading section, again, you can cut that out if you want. The tasks, which are going to be due before or scheduled for on or before today, the habit tracking, the daily questions, and then some different sections here. All right, so what does this actually look like? If we create a new note, this is what it looks like. And I'll close the sidebar so you can see us a little bit better. I am using this most of the time, by the way, in dark mode. It's set to adapt to your system. So it may be light mode, it may be dark mode, depending on what your system is set up when you use this. But if you open up the command palette, you can switch back and forth between light mode and dark mode. Here's what it looks like in dark mode. This is actually my preference. So here's the timeline, and there'll be a little red tick here for basically the spot in the month or in the year where we are. This is the verse of the day image. Like I said, you can just delete that part from the daily notes template if you don't want to use it. This is the Memento Mori section. I've got a whole YouTube video around this, but basically the idea, it's kind of related to Oliver Burkeman's 4,000 Weeks. Remember, you're going to die someday. When I look at this every day, it's an encouragement to me to make the most of the limited time that I have available. You can, again, delete that if you want. These are all collapsible. That's a collapsible call out. So you can choose whether you want that open or closed. And the way that you do that is just this plus right here. That means that it's going to be open by default. If you have a minus there, then it's going to be closed by default. All right, but we'll go back into the edit mode here. There's the Bible reading. This is linked to the chronological Bible reading note, which, again, the Bible study stuff isn't in here by default. So you can just delete that part if you want, but I left it in the daily notes template just in case you wanted to use this, and you don't have to create it all from scratch again. It's easier to delete than it is to add all the code. All right, then there's a task section. This is pulling in all of the tasks that are due on or before or scheduled on or before today. And then the habits that I would use for the habit tracking. All of these workflows are designed to optimize for the experience when you're actually tracking these things. So when I'm tracking my habits, I'm not wanting to do a whole bunch of stuff here. I want to just be able to check these boxes. And these are 3 habits that I'm trying to firmly establish, and you can change these in the template if you want. The dashboards are linked to this, so look at the how-tos on how to change the codes for those as well. But essentially, these are just, I did my writing habit today, I did my reading habit today, I didn't do my planning habit today, and then those states will be reflected on the dashboards. Then there's the daily questions. This is really the crux of my daily journaling, and this is based on my intentions, not the outcomes. All right, so I was doing prompt-based journaling for a long time. And I was getting really frustrated when I would have a bad day and what did you accomplish today? Well, nothing. I guess I'm a failure, So I heard Marshall Goldsmith talk about in his book Triggers, these daily questions, which is really just, did I do my best to? It's all based on my intentions. So what I would do with these is I would rate myself on a scale from 1 to 10. So there's the bullets, which you can change. Then there are tags. Right after the tags are colons, and then right after the colons, no spaces, you would put your score on a scale from 1 to 10. So maybe 9, 8, 7, 5, 6, 8, 7, something like that. Okay. And then I would also jot down any wins, journal entries, or gratitude entries. And these would look something like this, right? So wins, presented the LifeHQ Onboarding Webinar today. Oops, got some typos in there, but And then there will be a tag associated with these. So typically it's journal/win. And then by adding that tag, I have some queries, which I can look at all of those in one single view. Now, there are also quick add commands to add all of this stuff. So you don't have to type those manually. So for example, if I wanted to add a journal entry, I can actually do this from anywhere inside of Obsidian by hitting Command P. All right. And then, whoops, search for quick add journal entry. All right. So what's going on? And again, presenting LifeHQ to everyone who bought. Now, I don't have to add the tag when I use this. The quick add commands are actually set up for you in the settings. So all I have to do is hit enter. It adds it as a bullet under the appropriate third level header, and it adds the tag automatically. All right, so that's the quick add stuff. And again, I'm trying to optimize for the experience when when you're actually running this. All right, sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat here as well. Same thing with gratitude. I'll actually show you some of the queries here. So if we go into the journaling and reflection section, here's the journaling queries, gratitude, journal entries, and wins. You click on any one of these, and it opens up a query here, and it's in reverse chronological order. So the new ones are at the top. And the reason that I set it up this way is that I want to be able to review these when I do my personal retreats. And I'll start at the top and I'll scroll down. And this is basically a way that I can review all of my journal entries for the last quarter. Okay. Now, these are all my journal entries. I removed the sensitive information from these, but I wanted to give you all of this demo data so that you can actually see what it looks like inside of this reference vault. Because as I mentioned, this is kind of tied to that personal retreat piece, which maybe this is a good time to jump over to that. The personal retreats, I've actually got a couple of them in the personal retreats folder. There's one from Q3 and there's one from Q2. So here's the Q3 one, pulls in my life theme, it pulls in my core values, and then there are checkboxes here for review the journal entries, review the gratitudes, review the wins. Those are the journaling queries that I just showed you. There's also a link to review my ideal future. So here's what that note looks like. It's a bunch of bullet points of what I want my life to look like. Okay, so I wake up at 6 a.m., I write for 2 hours. After a short break, I go work on a business I'm building with a solid team who's passionately aligned with the vision. My schedule's flexible. I take regular midday breaks to go to the gym, go for a long run. I have lots of time to think, lots of time to create. Okay, this stuff is not happening right now, but this is my ideal future. This is what I am hopefully every single personal retreat getting a little bit closer to. So that's why that is linked there. And then another version of that is my eulogy. So this is basically what I want to be read about me by someone who would be doing my eulogy. So Mike Schmitz was a loving husband to his wife, Rachel, an ever-present father to Toby, Joshua, Jonathan, Malachi, and Adelaide. His family was his first ministry. He always made sure to put them first, yada, yada, yada. Again, it's all there. You can read it if you want. A couple things I'll call out from this. He was an entrepreneur who loved building businesses and making art. Before he died, he wrote several New York Times bestselling books and gave away over $10 million. I'm not at that point yet, right? But it's inspiring. When I review that, it's like, oh yeah, that's the North Star. That's the needle on the compass. That's what we're working towards. All right, and then there is a wheel of life that's added into this personal retreat. So this is, you have to manually update this. This is a code block, so we'd have to go in here. There's these different labels: spirit, mind, body, friends, family, significant other, career and work, mission, and money. And then the data, these are in the same order, basically. So 9 is spiritual, 6 is mind, 8 is body, etc. And then when you actually visualize it, it looks like this. This is using the Obsidian Charts plugin. And it's supposed to give you an idea of how happy you are with the different areas of your life right now. Okay, you can see prior to the LifeHQ launch, money was the one that was a little bit of thorn in the side. But the intention then from this is, okay, we're not going to try and fix all of these areas. We're going to embrace the idea of an intentional imbalance, and we're going to pick the one that is the lowest, and we're going to set some intentions based off of that. Below that, I have these sections where I have the scores, and then I just write a couple of bullets on why I gave it the score that I gave it. So spirit, mind, body, friends, family, significant other. Again, there's a lot in here. I'm going fast for the sake of time, but you get the idea. Now, after that, there is a retrospective piece. This whole personal retreat process takes about 8 hours, in my opinion, to do well. And I walk through the whole thing. There's a deep dive on personal retreats actually in here. Let's see, that's actually this section right here. So it would be this one right here, the personal retreat one. I can just open this real quick. This one alone is 2,700 words. There's a lot here. I tried to give you everything that you would need in order to actually host your own personal retreat. But then this is the template that it's all built off of, and then you can just fill all this stuff out as you go. All right, so the retrospective process has two parts. First part is a set of 3 questions. What did I accomplish? What went well? And what could have gone better? Okay, so there's, my responses to those 3 prompts. And then the what should I? This is where I get the most clarity. I spend 2 hours at least in this section. I usually get a bunch of bullets right away within the first 20, 30 minutes, but if I stick with it, my brain gets to another level, and actually that's where the good stuff surfaces. So what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I keep doing? And these are just possibilities. You'll see question marks after a lot of these, because it's what are the options? But I do always pick something to stop doing. That creates the margin for me to go chase the new opportunity that I get excited about. And then at the end, we've got the intention. So in this case, there was only one intention, and that was to launch LifeHQ. So again, this is the demo. Now you can actually just start using this because this is built in. And someone had asked a question previously in the chat about periodic notes. There are periodic notes in here. If you go into the settings, you will see here's periodic notes. Okay, so there's the daily notes, there's the weekly notes, and there are the quarterly notes. And this is all based off of kind of Cal Newport's multi-scale planning. I've put my own spin on it, but I really like that approach: quarterly, weekly, and then daily. So that's what these are. And then there's the format, there's the template, there's the folder. So if you wanted to just open up Obsidian and do a personal retreat, you could open up a new quarterly note. Okay, and this is now the Q4 retreat. Here's the date that we are doing this. Here's the life theme, the core values. All the check boxes are unchecked. The wheel of life, we haven't entered any of the scores, things like that, but it's all right there. And then the intention is that the quarterly plans are affecting the weekly plans and the daily plans. All right, so if we go and we look at a weekly plan, which we can do by clicking on the week number here, or in the command palette, you can open up the weekly note under the periodic notes right there. So this is week 40. Okay, we've got the date, we've got the tasks that were due this particular week, and these date tokens get created based off of the template. There is a link to the current quarterly note so that we can review that when we are making our weekly plan. And then we list, these are the major things that need to get done this week, and then the top priorities. So what are the 5 things that I want to accomplish this week? And then I condense it all down into a single sentence. This week is successful if. Here's an example of a completed one. All right, so this was before week 39, week before LifeHQ was made available. So this was the one thing that was really the most important. And then the daily plans, I actually don't do the daily planning inside of Obsidian. I use the daily notes like I showed you. This will pull in the tasks that are due today. So I have these, but then I will actually create a time block plan that is separate from Obsidian. I believe that is, there's benefit in having a different tool for that. So I actually have been using Morgan for this. Well, yeah, I won't get into that a whole lot, but Morgan is pretty cool. It's an expensive app, but it does integrate with Obsidian and the Obsidian Tasks plugin. So it'll actually pull in my tasks that are due or scheduled in today, tomorrow, next week. And then I can just drag those tasks onto the calendar. So I'll time block that way. And then I'll write out at the beginning of my day 3 tasks on my my note cards, which are in front of my desk here. And these then are propped up so I can look at them as I go throughout my day. Why not monthly plans? You could do monthly plans. I guess it's personal preference. The quarterly, weekly, and daily provides enough alignment for me that monthly just feels sort of like an arbitrary distinction. And that's influenced by, like, David and I have a focused New Year calendar. It's on the wall behind me, actually, where all the months kind of run together, because I don't think that they're actually all that important. The big thing is the quarterly plans, because we don't want to set annual plans. We want to do that for a quarter, because that, if we can really go hard for a quarter, we can make significant progress, and then we get 4 feedback loops over a year instead of 1. And then from there, just having the weekly plans, I want to be moving towards those intentions. And then daily is just making sure that I'm making progress on the weekly plans. So that's enough to keep me in alignment. If you do think that the monthly plans would be helpful, you can certainly add those. Just go to the periodic notes and then toggle on this monthly notes piece. But quarterly, weekly, and daily is kind of the sweet spot for me. All right, so that's the journaling. That's the personal retreat stuff. Since we're talking about the tasks and planning, maybe that's the place to jump over to the dashboards, because the big dashboard in here is this task dashboard. And this is kind of a bunch of essential lists that I have created inside of Obsidian. Now, actually, I'll open up the other habit tracking and daily questions dashboards. We can look at these first. Okay, so daily questions, you saw me add those scores. This basically then is a visualization for those different tags on the scores that I gave over whatever time period I set. This is pulling in everything, and you can see I had a whole bunch up until the actual release, and then I haven't been in this demo vault for the last several days. So the one that I just added is another dot kind of off to the side here. But these are the scores for grow spiritually. Here's my average. Here's the same thing for love my wife. Here's the same things for love my kids, be a good friend, exercise, create something, and learn something. So I will look at these and I'll look for patterns. I'll look for outliers. And if I see that there was one day that my score was just really terrible, like this number 5 right here on 825, then I could open up that daily note. I could look at the journaling and I could figure out, what actually contributed to that score. Is that something that I want to address in my next quarterly plan? But this is really just to give me sort of a high-level overview of how I'm actually doing in these different things. Remember, I'm logging these daily. I'm not thinking about these dashboards until I am going back to the personal retreat and I'm looking at this stuff. The habit tracking dashboard looks like this. And again, this is going to look weird because the last several days haven't been doing much on here. Whoops. But this is what it actually would look like when you have some data. Here's the reading habit for the month of September. And you can see the streaks are kind of tied together, the longest streak, the longest break, and my last streak. This is all data that's built into this habit tracking here. And then the how-tos explain how to change all this stuff. But if you wanted to not do reading, for example, all you have to do is change the search target right here, and then change the name of the task in the template that your daily notes template that you're using. All right, but then the task dashboard is the big one. This is how I manage tasks in Obsidian, and it took quite a while for this to stick, but I love this now. Essentially, what I do is I capture tasks primarily to a master task list. It's a single note, which let's create a new tab here. I'll show you what this looks like. And this will probably be appalling to some people. I get it. I had the same reaction. Okay, so this is just a big list of tasks, but here's the trick. You never look at this list. This is just the place that things get added. Okay, so if we go to the task dashboard, for example, let's zoom in here and we'll look at the ready list. So these are all the things that are coming up in the next day. Now I can add a task, and I can do this via the quick add command. So we'll actually search for, whoops, quick add new task. And there is a keyboard shortcut associated with this as well, but this opens up the tasks modal window. All right. And then you can just type the name of the task, send out LifeHQ onboarding replay. And this is due tomorrow. Okay. Now we can add tags. There's a whole bunch of explanation on the tagging system that I use. But when I click apply here to add this task, it instantly shows up on the right list. Okay. You could see it hopefully get added to that ready list. Now, that may not be the only list that it gets added to. In fact, it probably got added to this scheduled list as well. And that's really the beauty of this. These tasks don't exist in a specific location. We don't move them from one folder to another. We just add them. And then these essential lists are giving us a whole bunch of things that we should consider doing. So I will look at this list at the end of my day as part of my shutdown routine when I am doing my time blocking in Morgan for the next day. And this is the different, like in the materials inside of the reference vault, I really get into the philosophy behind this, but I believe your task manager should not be your task master. The brain, the computer should give you a list of things that you can look at, but it's not telling you have to do this. So John, they're kind of like perspectives in OmniFocus. I guess the difference here would be in how I am engaging with these tasks. So the perspectives, the way that I've used them previously, because I came from OmniFocus, was essentially, yeah, it was just a perspective. But then you go into OmniFocus and something is past the due date and there's a big red banner by it. Now you have a couple things that go overdue, and now you open up OmniFocus and you just don't want to do anything. You feel like you're so far behind already. These are just suggestions. Okay. And then the actual list that I'm working off of exists in my fancy notebook and then my note card for the day. So, yeah, this is not, trying to get everything done. It's trying to show me what are the things that I should consider doing right now. So I'm not really concerned about getting caught up. I'm worried about setting clear intentions going forward. All right. Now, there is the ready list, which is basically the things that are due in the next 7 days. This month list, these are the things that are coming up. Scheduled is everything that has a scheduled date. Later someday is just stuff that's out there in the future at some point. This is a tag-based list. So if I had a someday later task that I wanted to add to this, I could actually just include the tag later and it would show up here. Let me give you an example. Let's add a new task. Get tickets to a Tottenham Hotspur game. That's my team. All right, later. And then that shows up on the later someday list. Unscheduled is everything that doesn't have a date. Inbox is everything that doesn't have a date or a tag. Basically, you got to process this stuff. Clarify are things that I kind of know what to do, but I don't know exactly what to do. So I need to spend some time thinking about it and getting clear before I would engage with those things. Back burner is kind of the stuff. It's again, just a back burner tag and stuff that's kind of on deck. The things that are waiting, this is something that I'm waiting for somebody to do or to take the next step and then discuss. This is something that I need to talk to somebody about. You could add them to your daily notes. I just find it easier not to worry about the location. That doesn't mean that everything is on the master task list. Okay, so I'll actually get into some of the person related stuff here in a moment. But you'll see, like for waiting, for example, get keynote slides for sales presentation from John. Well, who the heck is John? Okay, John is actually a sample contact that I have added in here. And if we go into people, here's John Smith's note. I basically built a CRM here. So we've got some basic metadata properties where you can put in things like email, phone number, whatever. But then there is a tag here. This is what is used for tasks that John is involved with. Okay, now I've designed this from the perspective of you keeping tabs on everything that you're responsible for, and there are people that you work with, so you want to keep tabs on some of that stuff too, but you're not managing somebody else's project for them. So this is from my perspective. Okay, so these are things that I need to discuss with John, and when I'm going into a meeting with John, I can open up John's note, and I can see all of the things that I need to discuss listed in this callout right here. Okay, now this callout is just a task query, and it includes the tag discuss and the tag John. Okay, same thing with waiting. These are tasks that I'm waiting, and they also include John. The things that are assigned to John, this includes John's name inside of double brackets. So it's linked to the person's note. Now, those tasks could actually come from somewhere else, like meeting notes. Okay, so I've actually got in the projects folder here a sample project and some sample meeting notes. This is a data view query, I believe. Let's see, edit. There we go. Yeah, so this is creating a table where the attendees include a link to the John Smith note. And those sample meeting notes, this is what this looks like. In the attendees here, we've just got links to the people's names who were there. We've got a sample agenda and then the action items that were decided upon from that meeting. These action items, I feel like you may want to go back to a meeting note and decide and look at what was decided in that meeting. So it makes more sense for these things to appear here. And the great part about Obsidian tasks is that it's going to find these tasks no matter where they are inside of your vault. So if you want to put them somewhere else, that's totally fine. I just like to have them in the meeting notes and then one big master task list, so I don't have to think about the locations except for when it's relevant. So that's the meeting notes. Now, if we go back to the sample project here, we'll look at this too. The sample project pulls in the tasks that are associated with that project, the meeting notes that are associated with that project, and then the related materials. So the meeting notes that are associated with this project, this is based off of the tag. Okay, so there are a couple of quick add commands that I've built in here for adding new projects and adding new people. Let's take a look at the people first. All right, so we're in the people folder here. And actually, doesn't matter where we are. I'm going to hit Command P to open the command palette, and we'll search for new contact. Okay, and we'll create a new contact here for first name, Toby, last name, Schmitz, tag, Toby. All right, so what that did is it created a record for Toby, it applied the tag Toby, and then it created all of these queries automatically. So here is to discuss Toby, and I can add a new task. All right, let's talk about sponsors for Bookworm. Hashtag Toby. All right, and if I hit apply, then, oops, let's reload this. I think I might have, darn it, I think I might have entered that wrong. Tasks. Talk about, it had to be discussed. Sponsors for Bookworm, hashtag discuss, hashtag Toby. All right. Okay, so then the tasks will automatically show up in those lists. So during the week, if something comes up and I've got a regular meeting to talk to this person, I could just capture things and they'll show up on these lists. So all of these queries are configured when you create a new person note like that. Yes, there is no easy undo. You can do that if you are in the note itself where the task exists, but once you check it off here, don't think Command Z. Yep, Command Z does not work. All right, and then with the to edit, okay, so to edit a task, you can actually, with any of these views, you can click on the pencil icon right here, and you can actually get to the actual task. So from here, we can add any of the description, the priority, recurring, due, scheduled start date, any of that stuff. So that's how you would actually edit those tasks. Now the projects work the same way, where we can actually create a new project. Oops, that's not the right one. Quick add new project. And then we'd have the project name, project Titan, and hashtag Titan. Okay, so then this is the project. And again, it's going to add the tag for the project, and then we can use those tags to pull in meeting notes and things like that. So that's the task and project management stuff. Let's see, we've covered quite a bit here. I think the other things that I want to hit on real quickly are the book notes and the quotes. These are actually not in the blank vault, but the workflows are. So if you try to do the book notes workflow inside the blank vault, you may get an error. But I've actually included in the reference vault 100 of my personal book notes. All of the book notes are in this book notes folder. If you click on one of these, you'll see a tag, you'll see the author, you'll see a 5-star rating. You can choose from 1 to 5 stars. There's a cover image, which is added automatically. That is for the book ratings note, which I'll show you in a second. There's a 3-sentence summary. There is a mind map of the, this is from MindNode. So I've actually brought this in as a PDF. And yes, you can zoom in on this. I find this kind of a fun way to visually review my book notes, but then also I have extracted those as Markdown and added those here as well. You'll see some colorful highlights. This is based off of the list callouts plugin. So basically that's using my emoji tagging system and then adding some highlights behind it. The how-tos explain all of the details behind that, but basically you don't need to add these. If you have the icons, then it'll add the colors automatically. All of the quotes have a quote icon, hashtag quote tag, and then there is a quote book that pulls in all of those quotes. I'll actually open up that, show you what that looks like. Here's the quote book. It is a query, and it's pulling in by the source here all of the different books, and we can find so we can navigate this and we can just discover quotes this way, but we can also hit Command F and we can search here. So if we search for leadership, for example, we can actually just find all of the leadership quotes that are in here. And then the other thing with the book notes is the book ratings. So that's this note right here. This is a data view query, and it is showing book ratings for all 100 of the book notes that are in here. My ratings, you can change these obviously if you want. This is all based off of the metadata for the books themselves. So if you wanted to change the rating for 30 Lessons for Living, you just open that note, go up to the top, delete a star, add a star, whatever you want to do. But this shows the cover of the book, it shows the book title, it shows the author, and then it shows the rating. And you can scroll down here. They're sorted in reverse rating order. So all the way from 5 stars down to 1 star. And you can click on any one of these, obviously, to look at the notes for that particular book. All right. I think I'm going to pause there and take a look at some of the questions that have been coming into the chat here. I'm going to start at the bottom and we'll work our way back up. So show how you work with tasks between Obsidian and another app like Todoist or Morgan plugins. I can show Morgan. Let me open this up real quick. So I'm going to share screen again. Again, Morgan is fairly expensive. It's a calendar app, but then it also has like scheduling links and things like that. But with the Morgan integration, basically what you can do is go into the preferences, Obsidian, point it at your vault. It will add these IDs to your tasks. I've basically just hidden all of those. But then you can choose which files you want to exclude. You can choose which directories you want to ignore. And then all of your tasks will actually get pulled in over here. So you can see, do today, I have send the newsletter from Morgan. Okay, so then I could go into my daily plan and I could look at LifeHQ onboarding. Now, I actually sent the newsletter already today and I just forgot to go back in here and check it off. But you drag it on here, it disappears from the, oh, there we go. And then so you drag it from the sidebar onto the calendar, and then that's basically your time block plan. And then I'll transfer that to the note card, check that off. Task will be archived, and it marks it as complete in Obsidian.
Do you schedule your task in Morgan and then do they transfer automatically to Obsidian or vice versa? Do you do mostly of your task in Obsidian that gets sent to Morgan?
Yeah, so remember, Obsidian is just the kind of essential lists of the recommendations. So this is what you should be thinking about. When I drag them onto a calendar, it's actually dragging them onto a calendar that I have chosen to add them to inside of Morgan. So the time that I have chosen to do these does not get synced back to Obsidian, but when I check it off as complete, it does.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, when adding quarterly or weekly notes, added to the end of Explorer under Files, how do we get it to add to the appropriate folder? Maybe that's the blank vault. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing
in the blank vault.
in the blank vault. Okay, so let me just open that up to make sure I didn't make a mistake here. I'm looking at the periodic notes, adding it to folders, daily notes, weekly planning. Daily notes, weekly planning. Okay, so let me just share screen. I've got my blank vault open right now. I'm going to create a new weekly note. Okay, and I would normally do this by clicking on the calendar, but periodic notes, open weekly note. Okay, and that should have added it inside of weekly planning. So right there. Not
So, Mike, sorry, I think that works as expected, but if you go to the home note and click on the links, I think that's when they get created
oh,
in
right.
Yes.
Okay,
general.
yes, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
like those. Yeah.
Okay, so great point. The home note. Yeah, so today's daily note, today's weekly note, today's quarterly note. These are really, these are just, this is a little bit crazy what I was trying to do with this. As you can see, this is like a weird data view JavaScript thing that grabs the link, the double bracket link to the appropriately formatted notes. But just like a link that doesn't exist, if these notes don't exist, then it will just create these in the default location for new notes. So
Okay, so don't create it there, create it the
don't
other way.
create them from the home note, correct? But you can reference them from the home note. All of the other ones should exist already. So these you can click. Yeah.
There may be a way to write like a template or plugin that moves it to the appropriate place. But yeah, that may be. I'll see if I can put something together quickly. I'll let you know. But
That'd
yeah.
be great. We'll add
Like,
that
how about the
too.
quarterly note? Where does that, when you create that, where does that go?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The quarterly note, where does that go? Does that go to?
The quarterly note goes to the personal retreats folder.
Okay.
That would be this one right there. All right. And try to keep up with these questions. Where do you store your atomic notes in your database? I assume you work on the notes in the inbox and transfer some as atomic notes. Yes. So the answer for me personally is they usually just sit in my root folder. LifeHQ, I tried to create a big folder structure to keep things clean, so it was easier to navigate and use. But when I'm creating atomic notes, I usually don't care that I have a big long list of notes inside of my root folder, so that's where they would be. In the Practical PKM cohort, we talk about kind of the different ways that you can group things together. And so folders are one way that you can group things together. Links are another way to use that you can group things together. Tags are another way, and it's really personal preference on where you're going to draw the lines with those different organizational tools. But for me, I kind of don't care if everything is a mess inside of my root folder. Do you like to segregate notes generally by topic, where you treat a topic like a capability, people, places, recipes, quotes? Or do you think it's essential to put all notes in a notes folder and all images in a media folder? I think you could do it either way. Like I have some folders inside of my personal vault which are just, this is how I want to group these things together. But again, it's kind of up to you where you want to draw those lines. So I feel like people, the book notes, things like that in the LifeHQ Vault, there's some pretty clear distinctions with some of these. And that makes it a little bit easier, but really whatever you think is the right way to organize these things. Nick Milo had a video recently about letting your folder structure emerge. And I generally very much agree with that. Reminds me of the story about the universities where instead of paving the paths, they would just see where the students walked. And then as those paths were created, they paved those instead. I feel like folder structure is kind of the same way. Okay, let's see. Other questions. I think we covered the Morgan one. How do you go back and edit a task? You can click on the icon, or you can go to the actual text in the note. Let's see. Multi-scale planning. I probably don't have time to talk about this today, but I do have a video which probably explains it better than I could live. Are you wasting? So let me grab that real quick. Let's see, multi-scale planning in Obsidian. Share, copy. Okay. There's the link to the multi-scale planning video. Man, there's a lot in this chat. Suggestion for project template, break up tasks by status, just like in the person note. That's a great idea. Difference between scheduled and start. Okay, so this is kind of getting into how you want to use the Obsidian Task plugin, which is very flexible. You can configure this a lot of different ways. But scheduled is basically the day that I think I'm going to do something. Start is the day that something is available to be done. So let's just use this onboarding webinar today. This had to be done at a specific time. That's the due date, right? Now, the scheduled date, maybe I was going to work on the outline for this yesterday, but when was this actually available to be worked on? As soon as I had the event scheduled. So the start date maybe was a week ago. The scheduled date was maybe yesterday. Due date was today. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, in the how-tos and the deep dives, there's an explanation of the different types of dates in there. How did I put the LifeHQ graphic in the main UI? CSS and base 64. Can you show how you change the header image in the home note? Trying to use the photo host website, but was having difficulty. Yeah, I can try to take a crack at that quick. All right, so this is using the banners plugin. Let's see, HQ. I think this is the one I was working with. No, I'm not sure what happened to my demo vault. Hold on, I don't want to mess this up. There it is. Okay, so share this one. For the banner, here is the banners plugin, and then the image is essentially set in the metadata property for the home note, and you can configure some of this stuff here on how you want it to look. But the home note itself, let's see, I think that was in. Well, let's just open up home. All right, and then if we go into, yeah, so this is actually what it looks like if it's not in the reading view. So the class is the dashboard. That is actually the CSS behind the multi-column layout, and then the banner image is right here. This is an Unsplash photo. So you could grab a URL to a different image, and you could just drop it in this banner. Depending on the size of the image, you may not like the way it looks. You may need to crop the image, but that's essentially what's going on with this. And then here's if I scroll down here, you can see like if I close this, there should be 3 columns. Yeah, and I like the way that this looks. So this is kind of the jumping off point for the home note. All right. Alternative day planner. Yeah, I'm sorry, Time Ruler is the alternative that everyone is using currently. I mentioned it in the newsletter today, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to play with it. One thing I do like about that though is that you can actually pull in your iCal events. Um, so if you have a link to a public Google Calendar, for example, then you can have those events show up on your Time Ruler inside of Obsidian. I prefer Morgan, but it's also expensive. Time Ruler is free. So the iCal calendars don't seem to be working. I was able to get it to work. In the GitHub for the Time Ruler, they tell you exactly where to go for the Google calendars. That's what I was using was Google calendars. So maybe iCal, like Apple calendars, are not actually working, but the Google calendars I was able to get to work. Let's see. YouTube marketing campaign for LifeHQ. Yeah, I will I will do that at some point. Um, the YouTube channel, I published the task dashboard video about a month ago, and I have not had time to do any follow-up videos. I've got another couple of days of really crazy LifeHQ stuff, and then after that, hoping to get back to some regular content creation. I'm trying to go through the chat and see if if I missed any other questions, but it's a lot. So go ahead and ask it again if I did not answer your question. I want to make sure we get to them all. You said you used to use OmniFocus. Do I have a workflow that I could share for OmniFocus? I'm afraid I do not. I was using OmniFocus 2. It was about 10 years ago. They're on version 4 now. So I mean, you could probably do a Google search and find some stuff that I wrote about OmniFocus back in the day. But yeah, it's changed significantly since then. Do I ever use the DevonThink community plugin or DevonThink separately? I do use DevonThink, but not heavily. There are some people in the library who use it heavily. I know Mark Levison uses it a ton. Typically, the way that I'll use it is if there are PDFs that I want tied to specific notes, I will embed those like the mind maps into the notes themselves. But if it's just something that I want to keep, I'll put that into DevonThink. And then if I want to link to that file, obviously you can use the DevonThink URLs and embed those as external links inside of Obsidian. So that's typically how I would do that. Recorded calls of folks who have customized LifeHQ setups. I would love to do that. If you're volunteering, Needlehara, let me try to pronounce this. Neildhara, did I pronounce that right? I would love to chat with you. The changes in LifeHQ version 1.01 affect in any way the blank vault settings of V1? Good question. So to answer that, I would have to look at the release notes. Whoops, and this is actually the wrong spot. I'm gonna have to fix that. But here is what I changed with version 1.01. Fix the path for the meeting notes and the template or plugin settings. Fix the code snippet for the sample project. Fix the code snippet for the project template file. So that is, I'm trying to keep a log of everything that I do here so you can decide for yourself whether you need to download the new version. And then as I do this, I also update the how-tos. So there's instructions on how to actually change that if you need it. There is an OmniFocus plugin. Send tasks to OmniFocus allows you to send tasks to OmniFocus. That's cool. I haven't actually played around with that. But if you're going to use a task manager with Obsidian, then there are definitely cases to be made for that. I would actually recommend Todoist because there's a plugin called Todoist Sync, which is actually really great, and it works as a two-way sync. You can actually embed your tasks from Todoist using filters, and then you also have the benefit of the location-based reminders and all that kind of stuff if you're using Todoist on a mobile app. If you upgrade the blank vault, how would you use that? Not going to start from scratch each time. No, you would not start from scratch each time. You would look at what's new and you would make any updates that are required listed in the release notes. That's the current workflow I've got for it. I know that's not ideal. I was talking to Christopher. He's the community manager for the library about having some sort of installer in the future where it could just bring over all the new changes, but I'm not at the point where I have that yet, unfortunately. So I guess the best way to do it, if you have any questions, would be to ask me, okay, so like, what do I need to actually change? And I'll write out, this is what you do. This is the code snippet. This is what you change. I've been doing that for people already with the launch, and that's just, what I've got to work with currently. Auto note mover plugin. Nice. All right. Any other questions? No, I covered a lot. No, I also didn't cover everything. I don't want to overwhelm people. Suggestions for pruning of tasks or projects when it becomes apparent that that you've got too much, essentially. That was a question that Lee had asked. Basically, the way I would do that is I would look at the task dashboard, essentially, because if a task exists and I'm not seeing it, then it kind of doesn't really matter. If I'm dropping things are falling through the cracks, that's one thing. But if I've added something and it just isn't showing up on my list and I'm not getting around to it and there's no negative ramifications from that, maybe it's not something I should be doing anyways. That's not a big deal. So I'm not looking at that big master task list and pruning that all the time. But as things show up on my essential list, if I see this and I'm getting annoyed at seeing this and I'm realizing I'm never going to actually do anything with this thing in the near future, then I would just delete that task. I would click on the pencil icon, go into the edit mode, and just delete the task from there. There is also with Obsidian tasks, there is a status called canceled. So if you wanted to manage the task that you dropped, essentially, like this is not something I want to do anymore, you could mark it as canceled instead of done. That's a built-in status. All right. Any other questions? Anything I missed? There probably is something that I missed from this giant chat here, but consider adding created dates to your tasks, making a query around that. Yep, that's another thing that you could do. I don't typically use the created dates, but that's the beautiful thing about the Obsidian Task plugin. You can really tweak it any way that you want. You can even build your own custom workflows for your statuses if you want. Actually, there is one more thing I should probably show, and that is the writing projects. I realize I missed that one. So going back to the Creativity Flywheel stuff, the way that I manage my writing projects is based off of this folder, writing, but the projects plugin. Okay, so the projects plugin, this is based off of a folder. You can create new projects here and you can just choose the data source, folder tag, or data view. I'm using a folder and the path is that writing folder. Now, all of these different swim lanes, these are basically just statuses for these notes. There's backlog, in progress, and done. Things move from left to right. And as we move things from lane to lane, the colors change. But basically the idea is once I know what I'm going to write about, I would move something from the inbox here into the backlog. So actually, let's just take this calendar bombing idea. Okay, now let's move this file, move current file to another folder, and we'll move it to the writing folder. Okay, now if we go back to the projects plugin, here's something without a status. And when I'm ready to work on it, I'm going to add it to the backlog. Okay, so this is stuff that I'm going to work on. This is stuff that's in progress. This is stuff that's done. As I'm working on these, I can command click, open these, and I can actually do all of my writing right inside this note here. So these are actually posts and articles that I had written previously, just to give you some example. And if you have a more detailed process for your writing, you could split apart in progress. Maybe you've got 4 or 5 different swim lanes. These are all just based off of the status for the notes. Any customizations for the projects plugin? I don't believe so. Let me just double check. Yeah, no, this is basically it. I guess I toggle the thing I do with the projects plugin is I rearrange these so that the board view is first. I find the board view the most helpful, but if you added additional data to these, like a publish date, for example, then these can show up in the table or the calendar view as well. That publish date, for example, you can see it would show up here. So if you were managing an editorial calendar, you could literally do that from this projects plugin. But I like the board view. How is it different from the Kanban view? The Kanban plugin is basically just text in a note. These are actually notes in a folder. So because these notes are the actual text that I'm going to be publishing or a newsletter that I'm writing, I've got another project for like YouTube scripts. I find it helpful to have all of the scripts and the text that I'm actually writing be associated with that file. Now you could, create separate files, but I just like how the projects plugin pulls all this stuff in automatically.
Hey, Mike,
Yes.
if you were writing a book, and so the project would be the folder, the book would be the folder, can you divide like maybe each chapter as its own project?
As its own project,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you could, the projects are based off of in this case folders, but you could use tags if you wanted to do it too. I think the way that I would do this though, if I was writing a book, I would create a folder for the book and I would actually have notes as the chapters. And then this would be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and I would just write inside there. And then when the chapter is done, I would slide it over to done. That's how I personally would manage it.
Right. Okay.
Break it down
Thank you.
further, obviously, if you wanted to.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Would you suggest loading LifeHQ into a totally new vault, which keeps the current vault small, then moving the selections from current into LifeHQ? So I sort of addressed this earlier, Lee, but basically if you've got an existing vault, you can attack this two different ways. You can bring over specific workflows from the reference vault where I walk you through how to set them all up and link to all the appropriate plugins. You could install them using the instructions that I provided, or you could bring over notes from your current vault into the LifeHQ blank vault. It's going to depend on how many custom workflows you already have added to your vault. If you haven't really gone nuts with plugins, then it's probably easier to just go into your file explorer on your Mac or your PC, copy those folders and drop them into LifeHQ blank. You can always rename LifeHQ blank as something else, but if you drop those folders in, then all it has to do is re-index your files and you're good to go. All right, last call for questions. Anything else that I missed?
Not really a question. I just wanted to commend you for doing such a great job with this project. I've been following you for a while on YouTube, and I've always really liked your YouTube videos and tried to actually do it on my own vault, whatever you were suggesting. But I've been procrastinating a lot. So I really like the fact that you've set everything up. So
Oh, well, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a labor of love. Like I said, this is my signature product. I want to be selling this 10 years from now.
I think you will.
I want to keep adding things to it, obviously, but this is the thing I want to work on. Keep making it better, not keep launching new things. That being said, I guess I should mention that if you want to build it yourself, obviously there's the regular version and all the YouTube videos. I try not to hide anything in the YouTube videos. If you watch the task dashboard one, I walk through all the codes that I used, but if you do want help actually getting this rolling, there is the community upgrade. So if you bought the basic version and you want to join the cohorts, you can actually do that. And I will put this in the chat. No pressure for people to do this. The community will always be there. If you decide you want to join the cohorts later, you can absolutely do that. But right now, the only way to join the community is through LifeHQ. And this will actually be the lowest price, the $400 a year, as opposed to $500 when I open it up for the life theme cohort in November. So That link is for everyone who bought the basic version if you did want to upgrade, but you have everything in LifeHQ. If you just want to do it yourself, then you have everything that you need already. Following the presentation, if you want to suggest comments or feedback, I guess the best way to do that would be just to reply to the email that I will send out with the link to the replay. I read every single one of those emails. Those come back straight to me. So all of the feedback that you have, positive or negative, I want to hear it because that's going to make future versions of this better. And if I didn't answer a question or you watch the replay and you wish I would have addressed something, please reach out, ask the question via email, and I'll do my best to get you the answer. Yeah, but I've been talking for a long time, so I think we'll wrap it up there. If there are no other questions, one more opportunity, I guess. Last chance for anyone. If you have any other questions, happy to answer them. But thank you so much to everybody who has bought LifeHQ. The launch has been great, beyond my expectations. So just really thankful and appreciative of everybody who has supported my work. Whether this is the first time you've encountered anything I did or you've been following me for a long time, I recognize quite a few names here. So appreciate the support over the years. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for being on. And again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reply to the replay email or just send me an email, support@mikeschmitz.com, and I'll do my best to help you out. All right. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.